Hello and welcome back to the Wheel Brick. Today we'll be checking out the Lego Technic Ford Bronco SUV. This is set 42213. It has 943 pieces in it. It's rated 9 plus and it retails for $65 in the US. On the front of the box you can see the Ford Bronco, and I will say this is probably one of my most favorite recent box arts for the front of the box because of all the kind of darker background with the rain and the mountains. It just kind of gives me more of that adult set vibe, even though it is a 9 plus set, not an 18 plus set. Flipping the box around, on the back here, we get the usual gray for the Technic. We see the back of the Bronco with a few of the features, some more of the features, and then a little bit about the real vehicle. So let's get into it. Inside the box, we have 7 numbered bags, an unnumbered bag with the tires and a few extra parts. We have a sticker sheet here with a few stickers. And then, of course, we have the instruction manual. So let's get into building it. Here is the completed model on this Ford Bronco SUV. And there are a few features I like to go over, so I'm going to do that right now. Up front here, we have the Bronco grille and headlights. These are stickers here. We can also see a bumper here with a kind of a skid plate. And then we have these clips, like on the real Bronco, on the fenders, where you can put tie downs for accessories on the top. And then we also have a hood here that opens. And if we open it up, you can see the V6 engine. We have these silver caps on here. This does not come with the set. I just put it on because I think it looks a little bit better. And the one thing I will say is I kind of wish it had four-wheel drive, because if you were to see here, the engine and all the wheels are not all connected. So if I were to do the front, the engine does not move up and down. It's only for the rear wheels. I don't think there would have been a good way to do that, but I've seen it on other Technic sets before to have a four-wheel drive system, but this is kind of a smaller model, so I don't think it could have been done. Closing the hood up, we have to kind of pull it forward and then push it back in and get it lined up, and you can see now the hood is closed. You can also see some mirrors here along with kind of the hood bulge that they replicated, and then the windshield right here. There is no glass piece, which is typical for these Technic sets. I did want to show on the fender here, this is a new piece and this is also a new piece. The tires are also a new piece as well. And then you also have a sticker here and one on the other side as well that kind of represents the Badlands model badge, which that is what this represents. This is the kind of Badlands mid-trim model. Moving on, we have opening doors here with a handle here. And then the interior handle is also replicated, which I think is kind of cool. Now, on the real life model, these doors come off, but there is no real good way to do that on the Technic model, which I think is kind of a missed opportunity because they should have made it with removable doors. That's why these mirrors are positioned up here, not on the door like they normally are, because these doors are supposed to be taken off, but then the mirrors are supposed to stay in place, unlike a Jeep Wrangler. Moving on back here, you can see we have another of the new pieces here, and then of course the tire, and then you can see a shock absorber in there, which I will show the suspension here in a little bit. And then you can see the roof up here with the roof rack. I'll get to it here in a little bit as well. Moving on back here, we have brick-built taillights. We have a bumper with a license plate that has Ford Bronco on the plate. And here's something kind of interesting. This back trunk does not open, where on the real one it would, but they still added a little handle in here, even though it doesn't open, just to have that extra detail, which I think is really cool. Also, you can see in here the Ford badge, which is typical on these Broncos. You can also see the Bronco badge here and the spare tire along with the rear bumper. The spare tire on this set actually does something pretty interesting. If I were to turn it, the front wheels turn. That's the kind of hand of God steering mechanism. Instead of being mounted here on the roof, it's mounted on the back with the spare tire, which I think is really cool. Now, when I initially saw this feature in this set, I thought the roof, I was like, okay, the roof is removable. It is not, which is the biggest letdown of this set for me. I did want to talk suspension. So this has got front and rear suspension. So if I were to push on it here, you can see it kind of goes back and forth. And on the back, it also goes back and forth. The back is more stiff than the front is. The front's kind of more bouncy. This back kind of just goes back and forth. If I were to flip the vehicle over, you could see the suspension here. We got 2 shock absorbers here. unlike on the front where we only have one, which is mounted horizontally, which I think is kind of weird how they did that to have it mounted horizontally instead of vertically. My guess is because this is a smaller package, the bigger sets have extra shock absorbers on the front and also have the steering mechanism in here, but those bigger sets also are bigger and they have more room to work with. This is a pretty small package, so they kind of had to fit everything in here in a very, very small space. So that was really the only way to mount that shock absorber is horizontally instead of vertically. And you can also see what I mean. The wheels here on the front move independently. It's not four-wheel drive. On the back, they do move together, but I really wish it would have been four-wheel drive. But as you can see here, there probably would have not been you'd have to either give up the steering or some of the suspension components to fit the four-wheel drive in here, which is fine because the Raptor from a few years ago had the same deal. The Raptor is a little bigger than this. I'll show it here in a little bit, but that also had rear-wheel drive instead of four-wheel drive. Flipping this back up, we're going to take a look at the interior. Opening the door, we have this big dashboard that's a sticker. We also have the steering wheel, which is fixed. It doesn't actually turn the wheels because you have the hand of God mechanism back here. You can see we have two basic seats in there, and then we also have a rear seat in there. And that's pretty much all there is for the interior. Closing this back up, on the top here, we have a removable roof rack. So if you didn't want this on, you could remove it. And we also have two traction boards, which you can put underneath if it's stuck. And hopefully you can go back and forth and free you from whatever stuck situation you're in. Here it's just a bunch of flat pieces with stickers, so it's not really an actual working traction board, but you can kind of see the suspension demonstrated by using the traction board. This wheel is touching the ground while this one's up on the traction board, and same with the rear. It is all four wheels are touching a surface and none of them is airborne. Moving this around, putting this back on top, you can see we have a bunch of lights up here. And I will demonstrate right now that you can actually take off the roof rack if you do not want it on. And then you have these pins up here that you can also remove. So I'll do that right now. And there we are with no roof rack on it. It took a little bit to try to get the pins out. They were in there pretty tight. I had to use a brick separator. But otherwise, here's the roof rack without it being installed. You can see the four mounting points along with the mounting points for the traction boards. And you have the base Bronco, if you could call it that. I think this set looks really good even without the roof rack, because bear in mind, when you buy it from Ford, unless you add a bunch of option packages like the Sasquatch package and some roof bar packages, this is all you get for if you just want a standard base Bronco. But the roof rack does look good when you do want to put it on to go off-roading. It has all these mounting points, which you can see it clips back in there. And there we are with the roof rack on it. I did want to compare the size to some other Technic car sets. So here we have the Supra from my Supra video. And then we also have the Koenigsegg Jesko Absolute from a couple of years ago. And you can see here that the Supra is a little bit bigger than the Jesko. The Jesko is smaller. And then this one, of course, being an SUV, is a lot taller than these, but they're still pretty much the same in length. Here is the Jesko. If I were to turn this around next to the Bronco, you can see the top pretty much comes up to the top of the fenders. And then with the Supra, it also, the top comes with pretty much even to the top of the fenders. And the Supra is a little bit of a longer car than the two-door Bronco, but if you're to do a four-door Bronco, it would have been longer than the Supra. Moving these out of the way, we're going to check out the Bronco next to a couple of my off-roader sets, the Jeep and the Land Rover. Here is the Jeep next to the Ford Bronco, which the Jeep is pretty much in scale with this, even though this Jeep was made several years ago. I think it came out back in 2019. And you can also see it has a opening hood along with opening doors and then a pretty cool front bumper. Unlike the Bronco, this one does have a winch. And then we also have the big Land Rover Defender from 2019 also. And you can see it is huge compared to the Bronco. The Bronco looks really tiny next to the big Defender. What's kind of neat also, this has the removable roof rack, and this also has a removable roof rack. So you have some customization options on this little one, just like you did on the big Defender. Moving the Defender out of the way here, we will take a look and directly compare the Jeep from a few years ago to the Bronco. So the Jeep has brick-built headlights here instead of the sticker headlights here. They both have roof racks. They both have opening hoods. The Jeep the Jeep does not have a working engine, unfortunately. It's just a sticker. And then it also has opening doors just like the Bronco. And the biggest difference is that this is a fully open part that does not have a roof that goes over it. And this is a fully built roof that cannot come off of it. The steering mechanism for the Jeep is a little knob back here, unlike the Bronco where the steering mechanism is the spare tire. And just like the Bronco, this back trunk is fixed like it is on here, but the real version, you can open it. And of course, on the real version of the Bronco, you can open the trunk too. You can see here, these have some older tire elements on them. This one's got a lot more thicker tread than this does. This one has more of a, I'd say, an all-terrain tread on it rather than a full-on mudder off-road tread like the Wrangler does. I did want to compare it now to the Ford Raptor. Bear in mind with my Ford Raptor, I did buy this used and I also did a few modifications to it, like adding the front bush bar and the big rack on the bed and then also a hitch back here. So the real one that came from Lego does not have all that extra stuff on it, but this is kind of a size comparison between the Raptor and the Ford Bronco. And like I said earlier with the engine, you can see that this one, of course, has a bigger engine block, but you can see it only goes with the back wheels, not the front wheels. Just like the Bronco, if I were to open up the hood, if I do the front wheels only, the engine does not move. If I do the back wheels, the engine does move. And you can see also that this is not four-wheel drive, and the only two wheels that go together is the back wheels, just like the Bronco. And of course, this is a bigger scale than this is. You can obviously see it right there. So what are my finishing thoughts on the Bronco? I think it is a good set for what it is. I really wish it would have had removable doors, or at the very least a removable roof. Otherwise, all of the other features work well, including the back spare tire hand of God steering, which I think is a really unique thing because most of the time it just has a knob on the roof. This feels a little bit more natural, going back and forth, back and forth. And then, of course, we have the suspension that also works really well. And then the opening hood and doors and working engine. And the ability to take off the roof rack and put it back on. Or even you could probably build other accessories because there are mounting points on here. You could put like maybe build a rooftop tent, or you can put some off-road boxes on there. Heck, even the off-road box from the Land Rover Defender would also fit on there. You can now put that on there. And you can kind of interchange accessories from other sets, which I think is really cool. As for the price on this, it is priced at $65 in the US, and that is up from the $60 from the Supra, and it is also up from the $50 about for the Jesko. Now, this is a bigger model than the Jesko, as we've seen. This is pretty comparable in size to the Supra. I think the $5 increase is solely based on the tariffs, and that's what I'm going to blame it on. As with all the other sets from the August release coming into the United States in particular, they're going to be tariffed, unfortunately. So that's where we stand on pricing. With that said, at the $65 price tag, I really wish it was priced more at $60, especially because we don't get a removable roof, and we also don't get four-wheel drive. Like I've said before, that's probably not possible, but the removable roof was definitely possible. It was just a missed opportunity by Lego. I would personally wait to have it go on sale for about $5-10 cheaper, but if you do like the Bronco and Technic and off-roaders and Lego cars in general, I don't think you will be disappointed, except if you wanted a removable roof like me. Anyways, that's my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts. Put them down in the comments. Make sure to subscribe to The Wheel Brick. Follow The Wheel Brick on Instagram, and I will see you next video.